I'm Lady Sky, and I would like to welcome you to the first episode of our autumn season.
And I am Mistress Bird Barella. Welcome. So what are we talking about today, Sky?
Today we're talking about George Foster.
So no nickname?
Nope, today's episode is a little different, but we'll get there. Not to give too much away, but George was a monster in more than one sense.
Are you foreshadowing right now, Sky? I think you're foreshadowing.
Indeed, I am. It is unknown when our dear Georgie was born. Actually, a lot remains unknown about our murderer.
Well, we know his first name was George and his last name was Foster, right?
Well, his last name could also have been Forster.
We don't even know the man's real name?
Well, we do know that on December 5th, 1802, Mr. Foster drowned his wife and infant daughter, and that on December 27th, 1802, our man confessed by letter and was hung until death on January 18th, 1803.
So are we just not doing backstories anymore? We used to do backstories, man.
Well, the new set design took some time, and if you just, shh, and let me get back to the story.
Man, this channel has seriously gone downhill. I can't believe I was thinking about subscribing.
Wait, you weren't subbed? You're in the damn videos, Bird! Anyway, this story actually starts with Mr. Foster's death. What if I told you that George Foster was partly considered to be the inspiration for the Mary Shelley?
Aw, snap. I loved her in The Shining.
No, that's Shelley Duvall. Mary Shelley is the author of Frankenstein.
Oh.
Now let me introduce you to a man named Giovanni Aldini. He was born on April 10th, 1762 in Bologna, and became a physicist.
Interesting, Lady Sky, and I'm glad I woke up early this afternoon to listen to your riveting tale. And I'd like to make a joke about how his name sounds like al dente, or how bologna is a food group and not a place. But honestly, Sky, I'm over it.
Will you ever learn to stop interrupting me? Mr. Aldini practiced a little something called galvanism, also known as animal electricity. The idea that bodies were powered by electricity was brought forth by Luigi Galvani, who was also Giovanni Aldini's uncle. He had the idea after noticing a dead frog's legs kicking after being touched with an electric charge.
So this guy was basically poking a dead frog with electricity. Man, I love science.
I mean, yeah, but did you have to put it that way? Galvani's theory was that our bodies were filled with fluid that was powered by electricity. While this isn't actually correct, there is a crater on the moon named after him.
Hot dog, talk about a legacy.
Well, Giovanni, also being a scientist and such, was a little showier than his uncle. He would publicly take the heads of cattle and apply electricity which would cause the muscles to twitch. He once decapitated a dog, then attached its head to a battery. Onlookers said it was as if the dog was alive and suffering again.
Is scientist just a keyword for asshole?
You gotta break eggs to make omelets, Bird. History sometimes has some dirty corners, but remember, these guys were looked at as the good guys.
Yeah, whatever you say, Sky.
Let's set the stage, so to speak. Around this time, it was pretty common to perform experiments publicly for people to watch. Some universities housed anatomical theaters. On the stage of the theater is where dissections would occur on either animal or human bodies. Usually the human bodies had belonged to criminals.
Criminals? Like our boy George Foster, right? I see you're finally getting back to the point. Finally.
Why yes, you restless little twerp. This is going to get back to Mr. Foster. See, when the jury convicted George guilty, they sentenced him to death and to be dissected afterwards.
That sounds like an interesting conviction.
It was actually quite common in those days. Dissections were generally looked down upon, which is why a law had been passed to allow surgeons to operate on the deceased corpses of criminals. It was believed that one would not be able to go to heaven if their body had been mutilated. After Foster hung, he was brought to Giovanni Aldini to be experimented on with the aid of electricity.
Oh yeah, galvanism, right?
Yes, Bird. Electricity was applied to the face, which caused the muscles in his face to wiggle and one eye to open and move out. Aldini also got the late George to open and close his hand, and to kick about when the electrode was applied to his rectum.
That means butthole.
But alas, George remained deceased, which may have been due to the fact that his friend pulled on the lower part of his body as he hung, resulting in his spinal cord being severed.
Well, with friends like that, who needs...
Actually, his friends were doing him a favor. When a person is hung, it can result in them choking to death for around 4 hours, or if the noose is tight enough, it can result in their neck snapping and more instant death. Still not ideal, but at least you wouldn't suffer as much. Though had Aldini been successful in bringing back Foster from the dead, Foster would have been re-executed. That closes the case on George Foster, our prototype for Prometheus.
I understood some of those words.
I'm sure you did. Thank you for listening or watching this episode. Until next time, be wary of the monsters out there.